Good morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with a daily technical update. It is Wednesday, the 4th of December, and today we'll start with the Meta platforms that last night in US session broke higher, took out its previous all-time highs here, just above 600, pushing higher to almost 614. Broken higher here also on the RSI, and we got a little bit of warning here. You can see on the RSI, and this is what you can do. You draw trend lines on the RSI, also falling trend line, broke above it, tested from the other side, and then took off and then back above 60 threshold, actually before we had the breakout up here. So that is key to see. We can also see 55 moving average pushing higher. We are above the cloud. Everything is pointing to higher levels. On the weekly chart, also new all-time high, of course, extending the uptrend despite showing divergence on the RSI. You can see the declining values, but it actually also broke above its falling trend line there. So there's potential higher, at least towards the end of the year, going into January. To demolish this picture, we really need to get back below 550, below this level 549. Also, Nvidia, an interesting development. We talked about it last week that the key support here, 131.60, it did hold. We had a bounce back, and we could crawl higher here in the coming days and weeks. But we need the RSI to get back above 60 threshold, and preferably also back above the slightly falling trend line there for Nvidia to make a new high. So it is struggling a little bit, and we can also see divergence on the RSI on the weekly. So a little bit fragile there compared to especially Meta. Moving on to the overall index and S&P 500, that was basically unchanged in last night's trading, slightly higher. It was just a 0.05%, so basically unchanged. We are still showing divergence here on the RSI. Really need to get that RSI back above the 69.60. That peak over here for uptrend. So if we could see a little bit of correction, but we are in a bullish trend and likely to push higher. And here pre-market is basically also unchanged. The Nasdaq was a little bit better yesterday, of course, helped by Meta, to some extent Nvidia and Apple that also pushed higher. So we are above 21,200 and change. We are likely to push higher in the coming weeks, but there's also divergence here on the RSI. You can see this value here is lower than over here. But we are still in a bullish trend. The moving averages are pointing higher, and to higher highs and higher lows and higher highs again is pointing to higher levels. And I think also we will see a fairly strong market towards the end of the year and into the new year. The Dow Jones, on the other hand, a little bit of weakness after it was the leading index. Little bit of correction here, but also we are in a bullish trend, and here there's no divergence, so I think we will see it pushing higher in the coming weeks towards and above 45,000, but expect a little bit of a correction lower. On the European markets and EUROSTOXX 50, that had a fairly good day yesterday, just below the 4900, spiked a little bit above, but it didn't close above 4908, and that will be key. And we also have the 200 moving average giving some resistance, and the cloud area, the RSI is still below 60 threshold. It needs to close above 60 for it to confirm a bullish trend, and we need to close above the cloud and above 4908. That would give it some more energy higher, but it seems like we have broken this falling trend here for now, at least trying to establish a bullish trend. If it slides back below 4800, well, then that scenario is really gone here. And just a few minutes before before the market opens, we can see the future is pointing to a little bit higher levels, but not much. The DAX index The DAX index has pushed higher yesterday's session above 20,000 and seems fairly strong. A little bit divergent still on the RSI, but could be cancelled if it pushes higher here in today or tomorrow towards the end of the week. Slightly pointing higher pre-market, but not much to talk about. I still think we could get up to around 20,200 area. The CAC 40 is lacking. The other markets failed to close above 7,300, and it really needs to get above 73.42 to establish a short-term bullish trend. There will be some overall overhead resistance here around 75, 76 area up here, and that will be a little bit of a struggle for the CAC 40. We are still in a bearish trend, and it could resume downtrend if it takes out 7,100. Well, then there's potential lower to 7,000. Euro dollar caught in this range here between 106.10, where we have a bit of resistance. If it breaks out bullish there, well, then there's potential up to around 107, 107.75. If it breaks below 104.25, expect them push down to around 102.40, possibly lower. Cable sterling dollar here, also in a bit of a range bound, tried to bounce higher, but didn't get even half the distance that it traveled when it had the bearish move. If it takes out 126.10 here to the downside, expect the lows here around 125, just below 125 to be tested once again. I will remove this one here, it's a bit obsolete. So that's the range we are in now. It's basically the big one here from the 2nd of December that you should keep an eye on. That will be the breakout direction. The RSI is still negative sentiment, indicating lower levels, and if it moves back below 40 threshold, it's likely to push lower. Euro sterling is sliding slowly lower, but it is still above the previous lows there at 82.60. If it takes out that, well, then we're looking at 82 level, and we can see here on the weekly what is actually going on. We can see there's potential down to 82.30 or 82 level, 82 level there. We're still in a slightly declining trend here, falling trend. Could be ripe for a correction, but it seems like can't really materialize. We have this falling wedge-like pattern, and it needs to break out, or it needs to break above 83.75 for any upside potential. Yen pairs and dollar yen that has bounced from the support here at 149.40, and it is actually the 50% of the uptrend. I have measured it from here because this is like not really the first step. But this is the support area that is key. If it takes out the lows, the spike below here, form the doji. Let's zoom in so we can better see what's going on. Actually, two dojis there with a lot of volatility in today. We have the 100 moving average that seems to give it a little bit of support despite the fact that it's declining. We have the 55 also giving some. Now it is a little bit of resistance. We could bounce up to the 38.2 retracement on 151.74. Resistance here at not much strong resistance though, 151.45. I think we could bounce up to there, but then I think we will see a downtrend resuming towards 147.20 where we had the 61.8 retracement. We are in a negative sentiment on the RSI, and I don't think that will change. For that to change, it needs to close back above 60 threshold, and we will need the dollar yen to close back above 153.30 level, and that could be a little bit of a struggle where we have the 200 moving average kind of putting a lid on it here. So really strong resistance here in this area. The euro yen coming up here, bouncing also actually before it hit the or reached the lows here around 155, 154.40. You can see the spike down here from back to August, and the lows here from back in September. And a little bit surprising that it actually took out the 786 retracement at 157.61, but it did. And now maybe forming a bottom reversal like pattern with the doji there, bearish candle there, and possibly bullish candle today. But if it turns around, it could push to 155. The RSI, no divergence, negative sentiment. So we could see a lower lows. However, if it takes out 158.55 resistance here, the black horizontal line, we could see a bounce up to around the 160 level, which is around the 38.2 retracement of the corrective or the bearish move down here. Overhead strong resistance up at 161.90, and you can see all the moving averages there. They're now declining here. The 100, the 21, and the 55. The 200 is all the way up there. The Aussie yen spiked lower again this morning, almost all the way down to the 786, which raised 95.5, a little bit below that. Could also bounce a little bit towards the 98, but I think that's it. But if it takes it out, well, there is still a risk up to 99. But we are in a bearish trend, and we need a little bit of correction. We have had about past 8 days or so of bearish trading, which just pushed lower. But we have the all moving average giving a little bit of a resistance. We have the 100 coming down there. We'll put a lid on it, push it lower. The underlying trend is lower. That's what they are telling us. The sterling yen also bouncing after just closing at the 189.56. Bouncing here, could bounce up to the 38.2 at 192.60, but then I think we will resume downtrend. Negative sentiment on the RSI, no divergence indicating lower levels. On Aussie dollar is currently testing the 64.40 support, and I think it will break lower. We can see the RSI also testing its rising trend line, currently slightly below it, and I think we can see a push lower to the 63.60 support that comes all the way back from August and even further back, as we can see. Well, it's really far away back here in April. If it takes out that, well, then there's potential down to 62.70 that comes even further back. So it's breaking this. It seems to be breaking barriers out of this range trading behavior between 65.50 and 64.40, and we can see all moving averages pointing to lower levels. They are declining. Dollar Canada that failed to close above 141 after that massive spike up there. Maybe we'll have another go, but we need the RSI to move back above 60. The upper falling trend line. That could confirm that we'll have another go at 141 and possibly breaking it. And if it does close above, well, then there is potential higher for dollar Canada. On sterling Canada, well, it also slightly pushing higher here. You can see it bounced yesterday, zooming in a little bit more. Dancing around this 178.37 resistance area, just below the cloud and just below the 55 moving average. I do believe that it will slide lower here in the coming days if it can't get the RSI back above 60 threshold, and that could be a little bit of a struggle. If it takes out the lows there from yesterday at 177.48, I think we'll see it push sliding lower here again towards 176.80 and 176. Not much going on in EURUSD, basically just trading sideways in a very, very, very tight range. It needs to break above 93.60 and it needs to break 92 for really a direction. If it takes out the, and I will actually add a horizontal line, and let me show you. I will add, say, okay, if it takes out 92.70 again, we will see a push lower to 92. The dollar Swiss is excuse me. Dollar Swiss is trying to get back higher after it failed to close below 88 level, and could push higher towards 89.50 in the coming days. Bullish RSI or positive RSI is indicating that. However, if it takes out the lows there from the 2nd of December at 85, well, then expect a push lower towards 87. And finally, on the dollar index, when we are talking about the FX market, well, we have the dollar index that actually did close below 106.04, but bounced back above. So that is the range. If it takes out that again, then the lows there at 105.60, then I think we'll see it pushing lower below 105, possibly down to 104 and 30. But for now, it's just a false break and could push higher. If it takes out 107, I think we'll see it pushing higher above 108. Gold. Gold is a bit boring for a change and has been for the better part of a week around the or just below the 2650. It needs to get back above the 55 moving average. It needs to get back above 2667 for a push towards 2700. If it takes out 2605, then we could see it pushing below, lower to 25.46. So that is the range we are looking at the moment. Really not much to say, but other than RSI, still negative sentiment. So I think we will see it drifting lower and trying to take out 2600. It is a little bit directionless at the moment, other than basically just sideways in an extremely tight range. Silver, that bounced from 29.70. It needs to get back above and close above 31.55 for any potential higher, but then we can see the 55 moving average. We can see it actually provided resistance there and still providing resistance here, but it needs to close above this area for upside potential. And for further upside potential, we need the RSI to get back above 60 threshold. Copper actually had a go yesterday, spiking to the 50% of this downtrend here, but failed to close above the 422.50, but it closed above 418. So maybe it could try to have another go. I will actually remove this one because it's not that important. Trying to actually establish a bullish trend and could do it, but it really needs to get back above here at the 430 for that to materialize. But we have the 55 coming down, we have the 200 and then 100 here. So there's some strong resistance in this area here that could be quite a bit of a struggle, to be honest. And we could see it actually sliding back below 470 and be stuck in this range down here around 410. In the broader picture on crude oil, really not much action going on. We had a fairly good day yesterday, but we are still caught in this wide range here. And on the weekly, we can see here on the weekly what's going on. It's actually been range bound for quite some time, and there's a battle going on. Will we continue lower or can we bounce higher? And that's really the big question here. There's really strong support just above the $65 here on WTI. We can see here on the Brent crude oil, same picture. Really, you see we had lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, but we didn't really get a new lower low. So it's really key here, just above. Just around the 70 level, that is key. What will it actually do? Will we get a new lower low? But I mean, the RSI is telling us that we are negative sentiment. There's no divergence, so we should see it pushing low, but we need to have a close below 40 threshold. On the Dutch TTF gas, Dutch TTF gas is stalling a little bit. Below 50 euros, 49.55, but here on the weekly we are still in this rising trend here, hugging the upper trend line a little bit. It's not the strongest one. We should see it pushing higher in the coming weeks into the colder winter month here in December and especially into January, but we are also a little bit stressed short term and could see a correction. On the Henry Hub gas, the US nat gas, well, a correction is unfolding, as we can see. Currently at the 32 retracement, just above $3. Could push lower in a correction. If it starts pushing back above 3.25, then expect uptrend to resume. Because see, we are in a bullish trend, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, but it actually formed a bit of a kind of a top reversal pattern. That is really strong resistance at 364. So keep an eye on those levels that we are in a bullish trend, but it is not convincing. But I think we will still see that gas pushing higher in the coming months. The US 10-year Treasury yield, I did an update, sorry about that. The US 10-year Treasury yield almost reached the 38.2 retracement at 4.15, bouncing. If it starts moving back above and does close back above 4.25, I think we could see it pushing higher. And if we add Fibonacci retracement to that and say, well, maybe was that the correction? It could be. And there will be some resistance up here in this region, and if I add a horizontal line, it better show there will be a little bit of resistance here at 432, but let's see, can it close above 425 or not, or will it have another go at the support down? We can see the 55 moving average coming up here, giving some support, and the RSI is bouncing off the 40 threshold, and if it does close above its falling trend line, is likely to push higher and close above 60 threshold, which will mean that we'll resume uptrend on the US 10-year yield. The 2-year also in correction, still in correction mode, could drop lower to 406. RSI still positive sentiment, hasn't closed below 40 threshold, and could bounce off there. So maybe that is the correction, but some strong support around 406. On the EuroBund future, stalling a little bit, but still has potential up to 136.29 level. Positive sentiment on the RSI indicating we are likely to push up there. Let's just resize it there. You can see these two peaks here is just above 136. And finally on the UK gilts that is stalling a little bit above the 61.8 retracement above 96, but positive sentiment on the RSI should push up to around 97, just below here where we have some stronger resistance. And Bitcoin, well, really not doing much, caught in this range here between 90 and a change, and 100,000 didn't break above it, so really not much to say there. There is a little bit divergence on the RSI. Let's just very quickly, but it could be forming a triangle-like pattern here on the RSI. If it breaks either the upper falling trend line or the lower falling trend line, well, then that could be the first warning of direction. Ethereum trying to push higher and could push up to the 3,900 level. If it takes out 3,500, well, then we have a bearish situation. All right, that's all for today. Have a nice day. Talk to you later.